Good evening and welcome to the Shine with Tish podcast. It gives me great pleasure to welcome my guest, the Reverend Theresa Dunston. Can you please introduce yourself to our listening audience?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Reverend Theresa Dunston. I am the founder of Divine Destiny and Purpose Ministries, and we are a ministry that God has ordained to help people to get unstuck and become unstagnant from the places of the pain and the hurts of their past so that they can fulfill their God ordained purpose. Also, the co founder of Kingdom Couples Chronicles, which is a ministry that is also God ordained.
Yes.
And God has given my husband, Reverend Carlton, and I a kingdom assignment
Nice.
to help couples to win in marriage and to create the marriage that they always dreamed of.
I love it. I love the Kingdom Couples Chronicles. That
Yeah.
is so neat how everything just syncs up. Oh my gosh, Theresa, I keep telling you how gorgeous you are. Let's get into these questions because you look like 21, girl. You are forever 21.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yes. You have been married for over 30 years, people. Not 3 years, not 13
Mhm.
years, but 30 years. I would like to give hope and encouragement to women who have had broken hearts in the past. Can you share your beginning in terms of how did God bless you with this wonderful man of God? You were telling me a little bit about your story in our preview right before we got started. Share a little bit about your story and how long you've known this man of God, even though he
Mhm.
was not yet a man. Please share your story. So special.
Yeah, so my husband and I, Carlton, we have a very unique story. I'm gonna call it a love story.
Yes.
We actually met at the age of 10, and we met when we were both living with our grandparents. And we didn't know it at the time, but we were living with our grandparents because our parents were getting divorced.
Got it.
So that is how we wind up being in the same place at the same time, pretty much for the same reason.
Yes.
And we always had a crush on each other, when we first met, but
Mhm.
we did not begin dating until after high school. After we graduated high school, we started dating. Um, I actually went away to college,
Nice.
and then I went away for training for the Army Reserves right after we started dating. So I was
Mhm.
gone 6 months later,
Yeah.
and the rest is history. We made it through my training. We made it through my first 2 years of college,
Mhm.
and we had our son uh, 2.5 years later
Wow.
after we seriously started, dating. And then 2 years after that is when we got married.
Wow.
And, many people felt like we weren't going to make it. They
Why
said,
is that?
they said we were too young.
Wow.
And then they also looked at the legacy that had been left behind for us. Our parents got divorced. So ultimately, we would end up in divorce as well.
But the devil is a liar.
Yes,
Hallelujah. You are going 30 plus years strong. That is amazing. Is it 30 flat or 30 plus?
it's 32. It'll be 33 in August.
Oh my God. That is so
Mhm.
beautiful. That is beautiful to me. Let's get into this thing, girl. You have some wisdom to lay down today. I want to talk about, we also talked about, today is Wednesday the 21st, and last week was Valentine's Day. So that we're covering in terms of the month of February and love. We talked with Sister Nerissa, who has been married for 20 years. We talked to Sister Sandra, who's also been married for 30 plus years, and
Wow.
focusing on self love, the importance of being solid and secure in who you are so that
Mhm.
you can bless and serve someone else. And today, oh my gosh, your story is like it's like a fairy tale. 10, that's a fifth grader and a fifth grader.
Mhm.
That's elementary
Mhm.
school. And then fast forward to the end of high school. And then, you start dating, you go to Army Reserves, you still come back together. And then the longevity, despite what the enemy tried to set up in terms of divorce. And here you are. So I would love for us to, of course, praise God for your 30 years. And as we were saying in our preview that you had one girlfriend, please share a little bit of what you told that girlfriend about marriage and what she said when she got into it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So, through the years of experience that I had, with ups and downs in marriage, not really having healthy examples of marriage,
Yes.
seeing, some things that weren't the perfect example of what a wife is, of what a husband is. And then, like I said, my husband and I, we married very, very young, still
Yes.
very immature.
Yes.
I told her, I said, girl, marriage is not for the faint at heart.
Yes.
And she looked at me kind of strange and she didn't respond. And I guess she was probably trying to figure out what does that mean.
Mm-hmm.
But then fast forward several years later, she got married and she came back to me and she said, you know what? I didn't understand, but
But
I was married now.
yeah.
And I understand.
Yes.
And I understand exactly what you meant when you said that marriage is not for the faint at heart. And
Yes.
it just means, you can't be weak.
Yes.
You can't be a person that gets your feelings hurt easily.
Mhm.
You can't be one that just gives up. When trouble comes, when storms come, you have to really, you have to be willing to
Yes. Yeah.
endure what comes. And you can't be, I'm out as soon as
Yeah.
trouble comes or as soon as someone hurts, your feelings get hurt, you get forgotten,
Yes.
that kind of thing. So that's what I meant when I was trying to tell her that marriage is not for the faint at heart.
Breaking heart. Yeah, man. Yeah. So, this particular episode, I would love for us to. We've talked about self love. We've talked about the longevity and the blessing, the new legacy that you will pass on to your children and their children with such a wonderful example. If there is a woman out there who finds herself to be brokenhearted, and I saw R.C. Blake's is talking about struggle love. I guess that's a term people are using nowadays, dealing with love that doesn't come easy, where they're
Mhm.
struggling and listening to us right now. What words of encouragement would you give to that lady?
Um, what I would want to say is don't give up. Don't give up. Even though Carlton and I, when we married, we were young. I found myself in a very unhealthy, devastating, debilitating, and abusive relationship.
Wow.
And I came into our relationship, all of that baggage. I had some unhealed places in my heart, um, some things that I had stored away, tucked away in my mind,
Mhm.
um, some conclusions that I had drawn about, relationships, about men. And I believe that I placed that on my husband. He was my boyfriend at the time, but
Mhm.
I placed those things on him. So I didn't have a lot of hope about love. I had unfairly drawn some conclusions about him. And I had to get to a place where, I had to really, as a woman of God, as a woman of faith, I
Yes.
really had to lean and depend on my faith. And I
Yeah.
had to ask God to help me first and foremost to heal from within,
Yes.
um, help me to believe in love, help me to believe in marriage, and
Yes.
help me not to allow one bad experience to taint my perspective about, first of all, every man.
Yeah.
It's good for that, you get hurt by one man and now all men
Yes.
have to pay for what the one man did,
Yes.
but then also to not believe in marriage based on my personal experience and based on what I
Mhm.
viewed, when I grew up with my grandparents and even with my own parents, the hurt
Mhm.
and the pain. Um, Hold on, because I believe that God knows the desires of our hearts.
He
And
does.
if we desire to be married, if we desire to be a wife, I believe that God will grant us what we desire. We just have to hold on to hope
Yeah.
and hold on to trust and trust the timing of God. Because a lot of times we want to move out of time into our own time. And
Yes.
that results in getting the wrong thing at the wrong time. And then you get the wrong results. So
Yeah.
that when we're in sync with God and with God's timing,
Mhm.
then we won't find ourselves, we'll have struggles and we'll have, challenges,
Mhm.
but there are some things that we can prevent when we're
Mhm.
in time, in sync, with the timing.
Yes, I love it. Wow. Timing is everything. Kairos time,
Yes.
God's divine time, not chronological, but Kairos. And so if someone fails to do the necessary work in their past relationship similar to you, what could be some of the residue that
Mhm.
they bring in that they can take into their marriage? You touched a little bit about that.
Mhm. And I can speak from personal
Yeah.
experience, you can bring unfairly,
Mhm.
the pain. You can bring your unhealthy perspective or distorted thoughts,
Mhm.
which can cause a lack of trust.
Yes.
It can cause confusion, in your relationship and or your marriage. It could just rob you of
Yeah.
the peace that God has for you. And you can find yourself in a place like they did. They wandered for 40 years.
Oh,
You can find yourself
yes.
in a place where you're wandering, where you should be in the most happiest time of your life, but
Yes.
because you haven't healed, and like you say, you are carrying some of the residue, and sometimes we don't
Yes.
even realize
Yes.
that we have remnants of our past
Mhm.
or the
Mhm.
residue that's
Mhm.
robbing us of the best thing that God has for us.
Yes.
Um, where we just, personally, I found myself in a place with my own husband before we were married,
Mhm.
and even after we got married for a short period of time,
Mhm.
I didn't trust him. I
Man.
was always questioning his motives.
Mhm.
And that's because I was looking at him through the lens that I looked at the previous person who
Yes.
was very harmful to me. I'll say it.
Yes. Wow. Wow. I loved your analogy, Teresa, of wandering. Wandering. They were out of Egypt. They
Mhm.
had fire at night. They had pillar, in the front with the cloud. They were protected. They had everything. And
Yeah.
they still murmured and complained.
Mhm.
That's such a great analogy to make sure that we have done the necessary work to heal so that we can celebrate in the newness that God has blessed us with and not take that residue complaining and murmuring that they did with Pharaoh
Mhm.
into God's promised land, that beautiful marriage, that beautiful relationship. Want to make sure that we are taking great thoughts and great new hope into that experience and not any baggage. Wonderful, wonderful. Loving it. Let's see here. Next question asks, how important is friendship in marriage?
Mhm. Well, friendship, personally, I think it is everything. I don't think that you can or you shouldn't be married to the person that you're not friends with.
Yeah.
I believe that friendship adds another layer to the relationship, to the intimacy, to the marriage.
Yeah.
Because with friendship comes confidence,
Yes.
trust.
Mm-hmm.
It means that I can get naked with you. I can,
Yes.
expose myself to you. I can talk about my strengths. I can talk about my
Yes.
weaknesses.
Yes.
I can become vulnerable with you. Um, and that adds another layer. I feel like if you can't be friends, you
Yes.
can never reach the fullest level of intimacy that you are supposed to have and that God would want us to have and design marriage, as a covenant to be.
Yes.
And sometimes we can find ourselves, you know, where we become friends later
Mm-hmm.
versus I think some of the best marriages are those that were
Mm-hmm.
friends first.
Yes, I agree. I would
Mhm.
agree.
They
You
evolve.
know, I have a book. It's across the way. It's called Choosing God's Best. And I
Mhm.
love that book because the author breaks down the world's way of dating and marriage. Guy meets girl at the bar, at the club, guy takes girl back. There may be a one night stand, they may have some intimacy. And then there's an emotional connection as a result of that counterfeit oneness. And then, if they so choose, God forbid, there's not an unplanned pregnancy, where maybe a marriage will follow suit. And then, if that is the case, let's say there is not an unplanned pregnancy, even still, they may bring God in at the end on a Saturday for a wedding, and then that's the end of God. Whereas the book, Choosing God's Best, it talks about starting with that connection, that equally yoked. We both are believers. We're both connected there with the intimacy spiritually first, not just on the day of the wedding, but first. And then secondly, that creates an emotional connection, and
Mhm.
then at the end, after marriage, then it goes into the physicality of the relationship. So I definitely believe, and then it breaks down different types of friends: acquaintance, casual,
Mhm.
close, then intimate friendship. So choosing God's best. You can Google it, check it out. But I would agree that, and sometimes you meet somebody, you're super excited and you just run with it. And so I definitely do see the importance of friendship as well. For real. That was a good one.
Yeah, and friends like you like your friends. You want to spend time with your friends.
Exactly, exactly. And you can respectfully agree to disagree,
Mhm.
with your friend, and it's
Mhm.
kosher. There's no real fighting, You laugh it off, you keep moving forward when that person is truly a friend. All right. Wonderful answer. Love it, love it, love it. Let's see here. How did you know that your husband was going to be your husband? How did you know, for all the ladies out there dating? How do they know if that guy is the guy?
Mhm. Well, since
That's a
uh,
long time.
we had our childhood crush, um, I think for me it was just a little different, slightly different, um, because it started out as a crush
Mhm.
that progressed and it never went away.
Got it.
So we dated other people. You know, we liked each other. We kind of crushed on each other, but we still dated other people.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, we found our way back to one another
Mm-hmm.
and we got serious and we started dating. Um, the thing that did it for me was his heart.
Mm.
I knew that he had a heart for me.
Yes.
He knew about my experiences
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted to convince me and wanted me to know that he wanted to heal me, help me to heal, I'll say
Wow,
it,
that's awesome.
from the hurts of my
Yes.
past.
Yes.
And he was selfless.
Yes.
It was about me. Not that that was right and not that that was wrong, but see,
Mm-hmm.
this is how I knew, when it was about me and not about him. It
Yes.
wasn't about what he could gain, but it
Yes.
was, how he could give himself to me, how he loved me, not
Mm-hmm.
physically, but just how he loved me as an individual,
Yes.
um, how he embraced my family.
Love it.
Our families knew each other,
Mm-hmm.
but when we came together, it was like one big family.
Wonderful.
Like we blended together. Um, and then other thing is, and I did mention this to you during our preview,
Mm-hmm.
but when we grew up and even when we came together seriously,
Mm-hmm.
my husband was Muslim.
Really?
Yes. So
Wow.
he was raised Muslim. When we started dating seriously, he was not practicing because he was at the age where he could really make his own decision.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been, um, in the Christian faith all of my life. And, that was a deal breaker for me. And
Yeah.
I did. I let him know that. And I asked him would he be willing to go to church with me. And he
Yes.
did. He came to church with me and he came, regularly. And it wasn't until after maybe our third year of being in a relationship is when he really got serious, about church.
Nice.
Um, and he found something that he didn't find in Islam. He
Okay.
found a connection. And at a certain point, when after we had our son, is when he decided to give his life to Christ.
Wow.
And the rest is history. Now he's a reverend.
Oh
And,
my
so
gosh.
yeah, so God did a thing. But to sum it up, it was his heart and his heart for me
Yes.
and how he treated me,
Yes.
how he made me feel like I was just the only one.
Yeah.
Um, and he wanted to make sure that I knew how he felt.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did he make sure I knew, but he wanted my parents to know as
That's amazing. Wow. So much to wanting to heal you, wanting you to be whole,
well.
wanting to bring the family together, wanting to, I don't know about this Christian thing, but I'm going to go anyway, because you're
Right,
going.
exactly, exactly. Knowing that
Yeah.
there was going to be some repercussions from his family,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but still now it's still one big happy family because they love you and he's still a great man.
yes.
He's a reverend today. I mean, wow, that is deep. That is deep. Woo! We have him sacrificing, just wanting you to be your absolute best. I love it. Next question. God has purpose for you and him. What is your calling as a couple?
I think that it's still evolving, but
Mhm.
it's become clearer and clearer that one of the most important aspects that God has designed for us
Mhm.
is to mentor, to coach,
Yes.
to be an example to other couples, whether they're single, seriously dating, and or married, to help them to navigate first and foremost
Yes.
marriage,
Mm-hmm.
um, and helping them to navigate the storms that come with. Um, you know, a lot of individuals that we know desire to walk away,
Mm-hmm.
and when they come to us or they look at us or they see, the life that we've lived, for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, they see a level of inspiration.
Yes.
And, we are quick to say we have our share of storms. We've
Yeah.
had our share of storms, but it is a decision that
Yes.
you have to make. And because God has ordained and selected and anointed and appointed us to be generational curse breakers of divorce
Yes.
in our bloodline,
Yes.
we believe that that is what God has designed us to do, is to help other couples to move, you know, to to prevent them from going to divorce court,
Mm-hmm.
to being committed to covenant,
Mm-hmm.
to creating the marriage of their dream.
That's amazing.
And that is a weight. That is a weight to carry.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that God has designed us to carry the weight, that we can
Yes.
handle the weight because we have navigated our own storms. We are yet still standing.
Of course.
So that's one of the most important things that God has called us to do, is to be um, marriage mentors, marriage
Mm-hmm.
coaches, marriage champions,
Yes.
um, and help couples, like I said, just to create the marriage that they dreamed of. Because we all have a dream. When
Yes.
we thought about marriage, what did it look like? What did it feel like?
Yes.
Whether we were little or teenagers, we
Mm-hmm.
all had something in mind. But
Yes.
somewhere along the way, we tucked it away.
Mm-hmm.
We forgot about it because life seemed to take over. And
Yes.
what we are wanting couples to do is to go back
Yes. Yes.
and retrace, go back to what you dreamed of. It's not too late.
That's right. It's
You
never
don't
too
have to
late.
abandon that. You don't have to
Mm.
give up on that.
Yes.
You can start again.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you start again, you start afresh,
Yes.
better than it was the first.
Yes. Yes. And yes.
Mhm.
We need you guys. We need the champions, the mentors, those who have been there, done that, have the heavyweight title to
Mhm.
show that you're still standing. I love it. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. What are some strategies to handle adversities when they do show up in the marriage? How do you navigate through
Mhm.
infidelity, lies, God forbid, child money issues, addiction issues? There's so many issues that the enemy can throw curveballs. You can pick
Mhm.
any of the one to.
Yes, yes, yes. So, what I would say to that is none of us are perfect.
That's right.
And a lot of times we hold our spouse to a standard.
Hmm.
And when they fall short, the quickest and easiest thing to do is to, a lot of times, we can decide to give up, we can
Yeah.
decide to walk away, but we are in, it's a it's a covenant
Hmm.
and not a contract.
That's right.
But I understand that there are some things that I believe that God um, approves of a marriage dissolving. If there's abuse, things like that,
Mm.
and even adultery. Personally, I believe that those are opportunities where a marriage can be dissolved. It
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily have to. So it's
that's
up to
right.
the individual. So I don't want anyone to feel like um, feel bad or feel
Yeah,
like they did something wrong because they got divorced
that's
because
right.
of abuse or adultery, et
Or
cetera.
abandonment.
And yeah,
Hmm.
those kinds of things. But I just believe that sometimes
Hmm.
we can save our marriage
Yes.
through the process of forgiveness.
Hmm.
Forgiveness is one of the most difficult things. Forgiveness is not something that we can do on our own.
That's right.
Forgiveness requires the help of the Holy Spirit,
Yes.
um, because we, in our human self, we have a tendency to rehearse and
Mm.
to remind and to remember what you said, what you did, especially and women, we are
How you
the
make me
best at
feel?
we can read you,
Yes.
but that doesn't do anything.
Not at all.
And the thing is, we allow our past to infiltrate our present and even
Hmm.
our future. So we get robbed.
Yes.
And I look at it this way. I look at Christ, how
Hmm.
Christ was the model of
Hmm.
forgiveness.
Hmm.
That while he was on the cross, he
Hmm.
was asking the Father to forgive them. While
Yes.
he was in pain, he was asking the Father to forgive them for they know not what they do.
Yes.
And we are, you know, that was the perfect example of how we are supposed to live. And
Yes.
I'm telling you, it's extremely hard. It's not easy.
Yes.
But when that becomes the foundation and the baseline,
Hmm.
and when we look to God for strength, for
Hmm.
guidance, and
Hmm.
not from the world, and not from family, and not
Yeah.
from friends,
Hmm.
because they're going to put their humanness in it.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you what they should do, what they would do, what
Hmm.
you should.
Hmm.
But in those times when we find ourselves in storms and challenges and disappointments and hurt
Hmm.
and pain,
Hmm. Hmm.
I personally, I take those things to the Lord
Yes.
and I
Yes.
get my guidance and I get my instruction from the Lord. And this
Yes.
is what we tell couples when we do our premarital and even when we officiate weddings. We tell the family, this is between Mr. and Mrs. and God.
Yes.
Unless they ask you a question, you don't give advice.
Yes.
And one thing is, we would never tell a couple to get divorced because that's not our
Yes.
decision.
That's right.
The other thing is, what Carlton and I made a decision in breaking this cycle of divorce.
Hmm.
Our motto is divorce is not our option.
That's right. That's right.
Many of us would go into it with the mindset that, well, if it don't work, we just get a divorce. So you've already created your exit strategy so
Yes.
that when things happen, and they're going to happen, I don't know
Hmm.
what it is, but
Hmm.
things are going to happen. And then
Yes.
you've already made your decision that you more than likely you're not going to work through it or work at it. You're going to work
Yes.
yourself out of it. So
Wow.
that's how um, and we've handled, some of the storms. And
Mhm.
of course, we've had many because we were young, we were
Yes.
immature.
Hmm.
Um, and sometimes you listen to other people
Hmm.
when you don't have healthy examples.
Yeah.
You find yourself, and one of the things with me, and having even some unhealthy examples,
Hmm.
I really didn't even know what was in me until I
Mm.
found myself in certain situations. And then I found myself acting the way that I saw some of model
Yeah.
individuals. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to call names, but
Yeah.
oh, this is how she responded.
Yes.
Okay, so this is how she would. So I found it coming up and coming out. I didn't even know it was in me.
Wow.
I
Wow.
found myself in a similar situation, or it felt like a similar situation. But
Yes.
sometimes it wasn't a similar situation, but it felt like it was familiar to me.
Hmm.
So the thing that I did was act the way that I saw others act, the other women of my family.
Hmm. What are you most proud of over your 32 years of matrimony? What is your greatest accomplishment besides your children or even your children's children between
Mhm.
you and Reverend Carlton?
What? Let's see. I am most proud of. Um, I would say having the ability to stick and stay.
I
If
love it.
talking about, because there have been times when I have not wanted to stick and stay.
Wow.
Um, and it may have been based on what the world says. It may have been my own personal um, feelings,
Yeah.
but I am proud of myself. I'm proud of Carlton. I'm proud of
Yes.
us because we have remained committed to the covenant.
Yes.
And while we may not always have liked each other,
Yes.
we always loved each other.
Yes.
And sometimes we don't admit it. And I tell couples this, and we share this with them, that there will be some days when
Mm-hmm.
you just may not like your spouse, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's human.
Yeah.
And I've heard other couples say, "Oh, we've never had a day where we didn't like each other." And I'm
Wow.
like, "Okay, I don't believe it, but okay." Had many days where we didn't like each other. We loved each other. We didn't like each
Yes.
other. We have committed to work through those times when
Yes.
we don't.
Yeah.
But just being able to, like I said, to stick and stay,
Yes.
remain committed to the covenant,
Mm-hmm.
to forgive.
Yeah.
Forgiveness was a hard thing, and I have learned how to practice forgiveness,
Yeah.
how to release it,
Yes.
how not to rehearse and remember and bring
Mm-hmm.
it up. And
Mm-hmm.
because I'm telling you, in my younger years, you catch me 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
I could call the roll on you now.
Oh my gosh. I cannot even imagine.
Yeah, I could call it now.
Wow.
Yeah, but that is more damaging.
Yes.
I found myself. I said, I robbed myself of so much time
Yes.
by rehearsing things
Wow.
that were not benefiting me today.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, so yeah.
Sticking and staying. How can that couple, how can that wife in waiting, how can that single get in touch with you and Reverend Carlton?
hmm So the best way to get in contact with us, well, you could first of all you can follow us on social media
Yeah.
um, under Kingdom Couples Chronicles on Facebook,
Mhm.
Divine Destiny and Purpose Ministries on Facebook, and then on Instagram we're DDP Ministries.
Yeah.
Um, right now our websites are down.
Okay.
We're trying to do something new.
This is under
So we're in a
construction. Can't
renovation
wait.
we're in a renovation stage. Uh,
Yeah.
but via email, we can
Mhm.
be reached at ddp.ministries@yahoo.com. You
Yes.
can catch us every Saturday on Clubhouse
Yeah.
in the Kingdom Couples Chronicles house where we discuss all things marriage and relationships at
Yeah.
9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Saturday morning. We'll
Yes.
also have a prayer room on Saturdays in
Nice.
our house at 7 p.m. On Sundays at 7 p.m.
Nice.
Eastern
Nice.
Standard Time. So 9:30 on Saturdays, 7 p.m. on Sunday.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard Reverend Theresa Waters Dunston, the Mrs. of Reverend Carlton of 32 years, letting you know that you can stick and stay, letting you know that you don't have to rehearse what you've seen before you. You can break the cycle and start something new for you and your future generation. Thank you so much, Theresa. Can you
Thank
believe
you for
30
having
minutes have
me.
already passed by?
No, I can't at all.
It was
We've been
such a
having
fun
fun.
time. Yes, thank you so much for being our honored guest and cannot wait to see you next time. Until next time, people, keep shining. Toodles.
Thank you.
Huh?